that.
It's just stacking boxes at this point. We would...
Oh, that sounds broken. Try that.
You came here for the laughs, Tiffany? Okay. My jokes are not great, but I'll try.
Tell the joke. You really gonna do it? Get your boxes stable.
What? He is going to town over here.
Ghetto. Almost got it.
So this is a joke my dad used to always tell. I apologize. My jokes are really corny. So, there was a guy, and he really liked this girl, and they were going to a dance, and he really wanted to ask her to dance. So he told his friend, he's like, I'm gonna get the nerve up, and I'm gonna go ask her. So he walks up to her. Oh, and I forgot to preset. See, this is why I'm a terrible joke teller.
You sound like the fish on Finding Nemo.
Yeah. The clownfish on Finding Nemo. Yeah. I forgot to tell you the girl. He really liked her, but did you fix it?
Kind of.
She had a big nose, but he still liked her anyway. So at the dance, he went out to talk to her, and he said, do you want to dance? Man, I really messed this up.
No, I would not.
No, and he had a would not. Hey, it's been a long time since I've told this joke. So she had a big nose, and he had a would not, and they were both really self-conscious about it. And so they were at this dance, and he went up to her, and he said, do you want to dance? And she said, would I? And he said, big nose, big nose, big nose. Yeah.
I think we just had 3 people draw.
That's all I got.
And everybody left the chat. Just kidding. There you go. Thank you, Tiffany. My dad told me the same joke.
Hey, it's a dad joke. I would give anything to hear my dad tell that joke again.
We'll let people kind of trickle in. Not only did I mess up, apparently the orientation's messed up. I messed up on sending out the link. You guys are on the ball.
Hey, Tiffany laughed.
Yes.
She had a glass of wine and laughed. It still counts.
So.
I'm like, let me scoot over a little bit.
All right, you good? We'll make this work.
We're used to living close.
So we are, I guess maybe, I don't know when I'll start the live stream for when I actually show this for everybody else, but we are live from Marissa's mom's basement.
Coming at you.
We're mooch docking about 20 feet that way.
It's been really fun.
Yeah, we're back in
though.
Tennessee. Yeah.
My mom just was like, hey, why don't you come park here for a while? And my grandma is staying with her from Florida because, all the hurricanes that had hit. And so she come up here. And so we've been getting to spend some family time, and it has been amazing. It's been really good. Hensley loves it. That's where Hensley is right now. She's entertaining my mom. And
she's got a cat, so that...
And harassing the cat.
Yes.
That cat's ready for us to leave, I do believe.
Yeah, cats crack me up. You can tell how a cat feels about things. They don't hide their feelings. Yes. I'm glad that Rachel's there to filter out Mark's comments. So, but yeah, so we're here in Tennessee. We're going to be here off and on until the end of December, and then that's when it starts getting weather we don't really like as much. And we're going to get out of here in January and head southwest, probably Quartzsite-ish is still the plan, I think. And we're going to be bouncing around a lot.
Next year's going to be crazy.
A lot of... I need to look into getting discount fuel stuff or something because we're going to be using a lot of fuel next year.
We've got a lot of commitments next year that we've never had before. Is anyway.
Atlanta.
I don't think we'll
so.
be heading that way.
No.
See, we like to save the things close to Tennessee. We've intentionally done that because people
we
ask
go through
us,
Atlanta sometimes. I don't think we probably won't be going through Atlanta on this route, I don't think.
Atlanta's got an IKEA, though.
It does. We like Atlanta.
We travel down there to go to IKEA from Tennessee a lot. But we saved the stuff close to Tennessee just in case we needed to be here for family reasons or anything like that. Then we could still travel and stay close to here. So we go far out while we can.
Yes. We'd love for her to meet your 4-year-old.
Hensley would love that.
Yes. She's gotten really good at meeting people, new people, and interacting, and calls them her new friends and all that kind of stuff. Yes. So we got a lot of people Hensley needs to meet.
Hensley needs to have a meetup.
Well, I was letting people trickle in just a little bit today. I'll probably go a little bit over the 8 p.m. I said maybe like 8:05, 8:10 or something, since I know I gave short notice. That was my bad. But I goofed on that too. If you're coming in, actually everybody in here should be people that were still in here, I guess. I'm not going to talk about the orientation. It drives me nuts, but it just is what it is, right?
It is.
So we're going to be looking at what scares you about RVing. We got some awesome questions ahead of time, and we'll start with those. But first, I guess we want to start off by sharing, what scared us, our biggest fears. And I'll start with mine, and Marissa can think of hers. And these are fears. This fear was really deep within me when we first started, and it's still there. It's not as bad as it was, because as time goes on, I feel like decisions have gotten a little better. But at the beginning, especially, my biggest fear was that I'd be like a failure as a dad, because you want to take care of your family. You don't want to put your family in a situation where you've got no money and you don't know where you're going or what you're doing, or you're stressed. And we were definitely in some situations early on where it was a lot of stress, and I felt really bad as a dad and felt like that was just my fear. I was like, I don't want to screw this up for my family. But in reality, looking back, I mean, I know that, things have worked out. And time can take care of a lot of the fears we're going to talk about. As you can do this and as you gain experience, the fears won't be nearly as overwhelming as the beginning. I think the beginning is like the height. I don't know about you. What's your biggest?
Biggest, or can I have more than one?
Yeah, that's how it works.
Okay. I think initially I was scared about the money, and I thought, well, I'm giving up, working more and making more money. And what about saving for later? And, I wanted to make sure we were smart about that. And I didn't want to just, live completely in the moment. What do you always call it? You call it risk, but it's some
calculated
risk. Yeah. So
you don't wait to get to the 100% then make the leap, which there is no leap at that point. You get to 95% and then make that 5% leap. And you also don't make the leap when you're you just watched our video and then the next day you sell everything, and so you want to have some calculations involved too. You don't want to get to 20% and
yeah. So I think I was scared of that, but there are definitely ways to still continue to save money and put away for the future. And so I guess that was kind of my fears,
small spaces. I'll put that down, Mark.
Am I being smart about my decisions? And then I also worried about not seeing my family and friends. My relationships are huge to me, and I knew that I didn't want to be away from my family, 365 days a year. So I think I was worried about that, which we've found a balance of what works for us. And we're gone a few months, then we come back and visit a few months. And when we're in our hometown like we're doing now, we really just immerse ourselves in family and probably I've spent more time with my family since we've been doing this than I did working a full-time job and never getting to see them, if that makes sense. So. That's
funny. And I know if we added up the amount of hours we've spent with our family in the last 2.5 years we've done this versus the 2.5 years before that, like you said, it would be more.
My mom spent a month with us, when we were out at the Grand Canyon. I haven't spent a month straight with my mom probably since I was she was on maternity leave with me. Think about it. We've never spent that much time together since, because, she worked and I grew up, and so, I don't know, that was kind of a fear of mine, but it's actually, it's been good. And I always tell Nathan when I'm ready to come back and see family, I'm like, okay, it's time to get back and spend some time, and then I kind of recharge and we go back out. And then Hensley, her socialization and
that's 3. You only get 2.
I got 3.
Oh, I thought you said you had 2.
Hensley, and she's super social, and I still have those thoughts about what we're going to do in the future, if we're going to homeschool
school and all that. Yeah,
we still don't have a 100% answer, but she's doing great.
She's good. She's upstairs right now playing with her grandma, and we're like steps away from there if we need to be. And so that's stuff we'd have to drive in, just enough of a drive. I mean, it's not crazy far, but 20 minutes to get to our house, and then because you got to pack up, get in the car, and so it's been way easy to spend time with family like this. All right, I'll start digging into some of these questions we got, and then if you guys got other questions along the way, or if you got like questions about these fears that build on these fears, and some of you guys may be in here, and then some of you, I've seen a couple of you guys in here that ask these questions. So, teacher who lives in the same place, I have the same fears of my kids without any change. So that's totally true.
Okay, good.
Yeah, even in a house, you got some fears about how they fit in at school, and people sometimes have to make changes with school systems or pull their kids out of school, and so yeah,
it's very true.
The fear's always there, and that's the thing about a lot of these things. Like we got money and weather, and Mark mentioned the height. I don't know about height. I guess you don't deal with that in a house too much. But usually, maybe you could buy, I don't know. But a lot of these are same issues. Really, you deal with them in a house. They just might be a little bit different in an RV. So the first one's Dwayne. He just put $signs. Said, my wife and I really want to travel more, and I work in IT, which can be one of the easy things to do from the road. However, I've moved more and more to the management side, which isn't as compatible with travel. I could probably do consulting, but I'm a lousy at marketing myself, which actually we feel like we are too. So.
Yeah, sorry.
So the fear of losing a steady paycheck is my biggest fear. That was a big fear, and we talked about the money some last week, so I'm not going to go too in depth on that. And it's not like I have like, okay, Mark or Dwayne, here's your 30-second solution, you're good to go. It just varies from individual to individual, and I think if I was in Dwayne's situation, I would get my feet wet with the marketing stuff on my own and do some of the consulting stuff, especially in that field, and just see. You just don't know. Sometimes you don't know until you just try it. And we always ask the question, this will come up over and over probably with this topic, is what's the worst that could happen? And so if you've already got a steady job, and it's tough to carve out that extra hour or two a week, but even if you could just get 1 or 2 or hour or two a day or 5 hours a week, whatever you can do, carving that out. But that's a very legitimate fear. But you get some practice with marketing and practice picking up clients and all that. I think the good thing with RVing though is like, as far as the fear with money, one of the things that comforted us too is we could spend as little or as much as we want to. Mm-hmm. I think we could literally, people ask how much does it cost to RV? I mean, it could be anywhere from, I'd say on the low end, like low end, it'd be like $2,000 a month versus the high end. I mean, you could spend $5,000 or $6,000 a month if you want to. But if we just had to buckle down, I think we could do it for $2,000 a month. I mean, our monthly, this is our rent, our water, our electric, all that is, $300, $350 a month if we wanted it to be. I mean, that gives us a lot of money.
It could be free if you wanted it to be.
If you
wanted to boondoggle.
It really could. So,
or parking your mom's driveway.
But that's, so I'm not advocating parking your parents' driveway the whole time. But that's in our hometown. That's in a location we like. That's where we want to be. And it's, very affordable if we want it to be. That would give us a lot of flex room still with $1,600 plus a month to work out all the rest of our expenses, which we could do.
I've heard of people going a whole year without paying for a campsite. That is hardcore, but they're out there.
So that's when we were deciding to do this, that was one of our fears, and we found this park in our town, and I found out, at the time it was $300 a month. And I said, Marissa, look, that's, we were spending like $1,200 a month on our house, our mortgage, taxes, all that stuff. I said, this is $300 a month. I mean, worst case, if this doesn't work out, that's pretty awesome. We can just sort of chill and have that until we figure out what we want to do. Mm-hmm. So
we would have a lot of cushion.
Yeah. So there's options.
So you could just, what you're saying is you can just buckle down and live super cheap until you figure, if you had to, that's what. Yeah,
I wouldn't. I don't necessarily like the approach of let me sell everything I've got and then I'll buckle down and figure it out later. I would have some sort of a plan, but I'm just saying, like in Dwayne's circumstance, if he was picking up some clients, say he didn't have enough money to maybe make a full-time income, but maybe he's making like 50, 60 grand a year. If he could even make 20, 30 grand a year, he might be getting close to the point that he could kind of, get something cheap and get by and then maybe add on to that. But I don't think I'd like sell everything and move out making 5 or 10 grand a year. It'd be tough. You'd have to have a lot of stuff. I don't think you can do it on that. Michael and Debbie, weather's a big concern for us. How much of a heads up will we have on the road to avoid really bad weather? How do you guys keep track of weather patterns when you're on the road? And I think they mentioned too, I think they're in Oklahoma, so they've had a lot of bad weather. and sometimes like the more you know, the more it scares you. Actually, like if you're naive,
ignorance is bliss.
yes. So the more you've seen, the more you know. It's not like I don't know. Yeah, I don't think the weather has been too much of an issue, honestly. Some of the stuff I do watch what the wind's going to be like before days we travel. If it's crazy bad, we might leave earlier in the morning when the wind's not as bad, or we might just not travel at all. But for the most part, it hasn't had a big impact on us. And as far as like big storms, like a lot of your campgrounds, they're even required to have storm cellars in some places where there's frequently tornadoes and things like that. So you can call ahead and you can check, hey, do you have a storm cellar, that kind of thing, if you're in Oklahoma or one of these places that has a lot of tornadoes and things like that going on. Hurricanes, like, and I mean, ideally, like, if it's really bad and you're watching the news and keeping up with what's going on, I mean, you can just get out of there.
They gave, like, plenty of warning this time,
Yeah, so you see, sometimes people get, at least days of warning for a lot of these really big storms. And I have, there's multiple weather apps that do this. I think the weather.com app does this, but you can set it to where it'll give you alerts of, hey, there's something really bad coming. It may not be days. It won't be days of notice, but at least you can know a little bit ahead of time. And if you need to run to the bathhouse or something like that. We've done that with some hail. But
I don't think it's enough of a concern that it would keep me from pursuing this lifestyle.
Yeah, no.
I mean, it seems like I get the concern, and it's a legitimate concern, but you just don't see that it affects people's travels enough to keep them from doing it. I mean, you're going to see weather in a house. It's almost more convenient that we can kind of leave if we needed to leave an area, and you can take your house with you. So it's actually kind of a perk in that as well.
And if you're full time and you're moving wherever you want, I mean, you can avoid these places at higher likelihood of hurricanes and tornadoes. I mean, there's seasonal stuff for that too. All right, Tiffany, she's on here. Let's see, getting in a wreck. She's got a big list, actually. I don't know where
she's like me. She has a lot on her list.
She said getting in a wreck, totaling the Airstream, hailstorms, not being able to make it financially, somehow screwing things up beyond repair, blowing the place up because I've never used propane. Let me see what else. Mice, not winterizing it, snakes. She says Lane is worried that he'll be across the country and a family member dies and he's unable to come back in time to embalm them, so he works as an embalmer, which sounds weird to some, but he's amazing at his job and wouldn't want someone else to do it for him. Said those are some concerns. Not being able to afford repairs on the RV. So you got a list, isn't it? Let's see. Start getting in a wreck, totaling the Airstream, hailstorms. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, you're on the road more. I think it does increase the likelihood that you're around, something happens on the road. I don't know that, like the other one, that's a fear.
Well, we've talked about that, but then we talk about people who are going to their 9 to 5 every day. They're on the road every single day. Yeah. We're not on the road every single day. There's sometimes we're just, we're not in that situation where I feel like we're traveling like a 9 to 5 would. You think?
Yeah. Well, and I think too, like, I don't keep up with how many miles we go in different places necessarily, but like, I do know how much we spend on fuel with, like, our two vehicles. We've got our van, but we still got that Subaru because we've got that motorhome. So when we come back in Tennessee, the amount of fuel we spend, even though we're in one spot, which would be like living in a house kind of, because we're in one spot for a month or two and we come back in Tennessee sometimes, the amount of fuel we spend is comparable. Now, if we go from, like, one side of the country to the other, it's more, but a lot of the times it's not that much different. So what I'm saying is, if you don't move like crazy, you may find out you're not driving a whole lot more than you would be just going in and around town and picking up the kids and ball games and work, and there's a lot. You're driving around a lot too. It adds up.
She also pointed out that they're not comfortable towing yet, so that was another fear.
Yeah.
Well, We've never towed anything either.
No. Well, and I think you mentioned the Airstream. I think if you're not comfortable towing, something like the Airstream is going to be easier than, like, a fifth wheel or something super long. So, like, a 30-foot Airstream. I think the big thing with towing, I'm not going to get in detail about towing because there's tons of stuff with it. But the big thing is just to know that you want a vehicle that can handle it. If you do, the braking and everything else will take care of itself. But just realize it's longer, so you're going to have to swing wider, and just make sure you don't clip things as you're swinging. with an Airstream. If you're driving something super big, there's a whole long list of other tips. But with the Airstream, that's honestly, and you want to keep it, 65, something like that. If you're going down the interstate, don't be booking it 75 or something. I guess if you upgrade the tires, you can go a little faster. But we pretty much keep it 65. And then it helps with mileage too.
She also talked about her husband being away. Mm-hmm. I get that on a different. Mine's kind of the opposite side note, I guess, is I work in labor and delivery, and I love taking care of my friends that are bringing life into the world. So I get that on a scale that he likes to be there for those people at the end of their life, and so it's a very special part of life, and I want to be there. And so that's been really hard for me too, because I haven't been able to take care of everybody that I've wanted to take care of. So that's kind of been a little bit of a sacrifice I've had to make, and I still get to come back, and I took care of one of my best friends this year, and that was really great. And then next year one of my close friends is due, and I'm probably not going to be here, just the timing isn't working out. So it's one of those things you can try as much as you can to get back for those situations, but sometimes I just have to sacrifice being there, and wishing I could sometimes. So I wish I had a better answer for that, but
well, there are options, and as you travel more and more, you'll start to think about, if that's a concern, you can kind of maybe at least be aware or try to stay closer to certain cities where flight costs aren't as bad. Mm-hmm. Even though Denver's pretty far away, it's usually considerable. It's not too bad to fly from Denver to where we're at least in Middle Tennessee. Albuquerque's another one, and so you've got these cities that are kind of like hubs, and it's not as bad. Stay put, just repeat when people pass. Yeah, so it just depends from person to person what's important to you. Mm-hmm. And I mean, obviously, everybody probably has somebody that, if they were critically ill, they would find a way to get there. And I think we would too. We haven't had, we've rushed a little bit in some situations to get from point A to point B, but we haven't had to like a situation where we have to hop on a flight and get back or something. Yeah. But if we had to, we would. But I think that could be a legitimate concern with that. Brent and Sarah said, we're afraid of loving life on the road so much that we spend all our money and then return home after a year or 2 or 3 with no money in our savings account. We're fortunate to have a few rental properties, and one of them would be our own house. So we know we'd have a home to return to, but will we have enough money? Will we be able to find jobs? And furthermore, will we have enough money to do what we really want to do on the road? Yeah, that kind of, we've touched on some of that stuff, but I think it builds into the range of, if you want to be super frugal, $2,500 a month. I think if you're just starting off, stuff's going to be more expensive because you have a harder time finding the deals, mm-hmm. and you're going to be just kind of figuring out the ropes. I would probably plan on $3,500, and that depends on how many kids and all that stuff too, and what kind of rig you got. But maybe $3,500 a month starting off. As you get better, you can maybe get that down to $3,000. If you got to be super frugal 1 month and you don't have like a lot of like overhead with payments and stuff, you might be able to get it down to $2,500. But you got to figure out what your comfort level of living is, and then what kind of vehicle you're driving too. If you got a Class A, it's going to cost more as far as saving money for repairs and all that too. But I don't know if I'm helping with these things.
when we started out, we spent way too much. Like, this is what we were talking about last Q&A, but we spent that on food and like our activities, and like he's saying, it is so hard sometimes. We will have a list of 20 things to do in an area, and Nathan's like, pick your top things to do. And so that is tough. That is hard, going to a new area and like not getting to do every single thing, because it does add up. But there are a lot of cool free things to do too. So I get on Pinterest and I find lots of like free things to do in the area. And so that doesn't mean I get to, go do some of the most awesome stuff every time we're in a new place. But we just kind of pick and choose, and we still have a lot of fun. And sometimes you just have to say no, because you just possibly can't do it all, or you will, like you're saying, you'll go through all of your money. So that's been tough, as trying to say no and say, we'll just come back. That's what we have to tell ourselves. It's not this time. We'll do it another time. We just kind of pick our most important things, and we still have fun doing that.
Yeah, so some discipline in what you do, and then I know he's talking about, when we come back, will we have a job? I know that was kind of one of our concerns too. If we came back, I mean, we happen to be in fields, with web design and SEO, and I kind of worked for myself, but she was in nursing, or is in nursing. So I mean, kind of opens more doors, I think. Did you read that before it went away?
It's boondocking.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, well, we'll talk about that too. But let's see. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. So I think that is a concern. I think that answer of will there be a job waiting for me might depend on what job you have, how specialized it is, how the economy's doing. Right now, the economy seems to be doing pretty well. So I think a lot of people in a lot of areas. The worst case, I mean, if you got your RV and you're moving around, worst case, you've got a lot of flexibility in where you work. Whereas before, if you got your house, you're stuck in that one place. You're just checking that tiny radius for jobs because you got your house. It's a big pain to sell your house and get a new job at the same time. So in theory, if you're already on the road and there's another area you absolutely love, you can live in that area, pick up a job in that area. I think it gives you a competitive advantage as far as where you would get a job and what you would do. So that might decrease that risk just a little bit. And if nothing else, there are definitely jobs that are seasonal. They're based on location. I mean, right now, working for Amazon and some of the other stuff with Christmas picking up. I mean, so there are ways to get money in different seasons of the year. But that the answer to that one varies a lot from job to job and what you're looking at doing. I know one of my concerns, and when people tell this to their families, it's one of the concerns too, is you're buying vehicles that go down in value instead of investing in a house that goes up in value, which a house usually goes up in value, but as we saw, several years ago, it's not always the case. But yeah, vehicles do pretty much always go down in value, unless you're a collector flipping them or something or whatever. But for the most part, they're going to go down. So that's why we recommend, especially starting off until you're comfortable, getting something high quality used, and then going with that so you don't lose as much money as quickly. Because that's, you spend all your savings and then you buy something brand new, you realize you hate it, and you're gonna take a beating the first couple of years. Now we're not saying don't buy new, but just be really sure if you're buying new that you're ready to do that, because you could take a hit on it. What is it? Yeah, Mark's talking about the value of the experience as being invaluable. I think that too. We touched on that in Glacier, like how you don't know if certain things are even going to be there, in 15, 20 years. Laura mentioned, have you gotten more comfortable with boondocking? You feel more comfortable with your spending, budgeting? I think so. I think in the beginning, we did not boondock that much. We were, like, in the beginning, like, if you've never RV'd like us, man, just like, me remembering to get the jacks up, or me remembering that stuff is locked down, or the awnings, everything's locked like it needs to be, and I'm doing things I need to do on the road, and adding on top of that, hey, let's also figure out how to go somewhere and learn how to conserve our water and our sewer and our gray water, and because there's a whole other level, and how do we get power and all that. It's a whole other level of the boondocking. So I almost recommend the beginning, maybe get a generator, some good batteries, but really focus on just the RV experience. Just enjoy the experience and kind of maybe learn how to find campgrounds that don't cost as much. Not that, you could boondock too, but to us at least, it was a lot of decisions. We didn't do a lot of boondocking till almost a year in, really.
Well, for me personally, I was getting used to the downsizing space and giving up. You make a lot of sacrifices in this lifestyle, but you get so much more in return. But in the beginning, I think you're still adjusting and you've given up so much. I don't think I could have given up the things that you have to give up in boondocking. Like, if I would have moved in that small space and then Nathan's like, and we do military showers, and we do this and this and this, I'd be like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
But I think over time, I got used to it, and I started seeing the positive side and everything we were gaining from living in an RV. And so then I was like, okay, well, I could start to watch my water a little bit, and I started getting more comfortable. So it would have been a huge shock in the beginning if I would have tried to do too much too quick. So that worked for us, and now we enjoy boondocking because of the places we get to go.
Yeah, so if you've got experience, if you've done tent camping, pop-up campers, or you've been boondocking before, you may be able to hop right in and be comfortable with that. But I guess if your stress level is already up to here with, having your shower being a fifth of the size, maybe even more than that. Our shower's way smaller. And then so saying, hey, let's add more on top of that with a stress level. Let's go boondocking. I definitely didn't push it. I was just like, let's just find some place to stay. And we knew about boondocking. We knew what it was. We kind of thought it was crazy to start with.
I'm like, why would somebody want to camp like that?
So yeah, I think it's helped. I think over time, but I think expecting at the beginning you'll just hop right in, do all that stuff. It'll be easy. You'll save a ton of money. I think it's a lot of stress to us. I would rather gradually work my way into it. Let's see, Rick and Cheryl. Do we have any other? Yep, Carl's talking about selling. Selling stuff is a fear, and it's hard to do too. Let's see. Rick and Cheryl, concern over issues with the RV while away from home base and it being in a shop. If we can find a reputable place to take it for an extended period of time, so we have no home. I think that's a concern. I think the good news is, and this is a pro for having a towable. Most of to me, what I've noticed, most of the major issues where like we've got to get it fixed right now, or we can't move, or we got to get it fixed right now, or we're in danger, or whatever, have to do with the engine and the chassis of the thing doing the towing. So, for example, when we had our motorhome, that's where the engine's at. That's the main chassis. That's where the weight's at. Everything, and which is great. That's a great perk. But when something goes wrong, and Rick and Cheryl may be looking at a motorhome, maybe while they're saying this, and I'm not saying don't do a motorhome, but I'm saying just know this. At least for us, it's what we learned. When something went wrong with our motorhome, our home had to go in the shop. It wasn't like, hey, we'll live in the Subaru while the motorhome, that was it. So that was stressful, and we had to stay, in a mechanic's driveway. Luckily, they let us. Some people have to get hotel rooms or fly somewhere, figure something out. So that can be stressful, for sure.
Yeah, luckily, like you said, it happened to us one time, and I was a little concerned. I thought, we're going to have to go find a hotel. How long is this going to take to get fixed?
It can be, because, just be honest, it can be weeks before you get your RV repaired some places. It's not. We luckily got a pretty good place the time we broke down. They got it fixed in one day on a weekend. I mean, that was
and they let us stay in our RV.
They gave us water and electric.
Yeah, they hooked us up. So
not. She's right. I mean, it could be a fear. You never know where you're going to be and what's going to happen. But having said that, I think if it is a big fear, I think the towables are nice. When I say towables, I'm talking about like a travel trailer or a fifth wheel, because most of your major stuff that goes wrong will probably go wrong with the truck or van or whatever's doing the towing. And so then you can, and plus you got more places you can take that for repairs. Whereas with a motorhome, you're like just hoping and praying there's like an RV place or something that'll take. Even Class C's we've heard have a hard time sometimes getting into a regular mechanic shop. So
they need something big enough to fit them.
Yeah, they're wide. They're still wide body. A van, would kind of solve a lot of this, but again, that's your home. So, but when your main vehicle with the engine and doing all the towing is bad, you can get it into something hopefully, and then you've still got your RV if nothing else, and you can just stay at the RV park and rent a vehicle or whatever you got to do to get by, or Uber if you're somewhere big. But that's definitely a pro for having a towable. If that's a huge fear, and especially if you're not comfortable. I wasn't very comfortable with working on the engine with the Class A and stuff like that. And some people just do all their own work. They're okay with if it broke down on the side of the road, get them some duct tape and they'll have that thing up and running in 10 minutes. But
is that how you fix stuff?
No, I don't fix it. I try it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a concern, but that's some stuff we've experienced with it too because of my lack of experience with anything mechanical. And that's not to say we won't ever go with a motorhome again, but you just got to know I think it's more of a risk when you encounter that kind of stuff. Thomas said, and for you guys, we had a few people come in. We are at Marissa's mom's house, Mooch Docking or whatever, in Tennessee. We've gotten back to Tennessee, and this is her brother's basement. So this doesn't look like our Airstream, I'm sure. These having ceilings is how it would be nice. But. Let's see. Thomas said, going to spend Thanksgiving with my son in D.C. He does work with the White House and can't come to Kentucky this year. Never drove a car there, let alone this box. I was assuming he was driving a motorhome or he didn't go into any more detail than that. But so that's kind of touching on the driving aspect of this stuff as far as a fear. I think if you haven't towed before, the Airstreams. So we towed a 28-foot trailer, 43-foot fifth wheel, pretty much 40-foot Class A, and then now a 31-foot Airstream. And I can say that, our first one that was 28 feet was super easy too, but the 31-foot Airstream's been the easiest as far as towing. Once we got the right friction sway bar installed. Marissa drove it, and
In a straight line.
In a straight line.
I made a couple of turns.
She got into the gas station. She didn't want to. She pulled into the gas
station.
station.
I pulled into a gas pump.
And you were like, take it over, take it over. I'm like, you can do this. You can do this. So I just told her to swing wide.
Well, I have, like, trauma from gas stations.
Well, our 43-foot fifth wheel, I guess since we're talking about towing and some of the fears, if you don't have experience towing something large, I mean, our truck and 43-foot fifth wheel, when I would go near semis, I mean, we were almost the same length as a semi. Not quite as long, but you're within 5 or 10 feet of a semi length. And so, it was stressful driving that. I will say this with fifth wheels, it didn't seem, even though it's 43 feet, I didn't seem to get pushed around with the wind as much. It's resting on the truck bed. Whereas a trailer, especially if you don't have a good hitch, you might get more wag, which is really weird to feel. It's a weird feeling if you feel it back there. There's a, I can feel it a tiny bit and it's okay kind of thing. And there's a, whoa, something's wrong. I need to pull over. I need to get a different hitch, which we encountered with ours. So, but with the fifth wheel, I didn't notice near as much as far as that stuff going on. So if something wagging behind you is a fear, I think a motorhome, a fifth wheel, something like that might be better. But in general, I think it's easier to pull the travel trailer. But if you want something big, I mean, that may not be a good option. As far as like your motorhomes, the narrower, if you see the older ones with the narrower wheels, they're going to get pushed around by semis more. And then the lighter the weight on the motorhome, like your Class C's, are going to get pushed around more. So we had a gas motorhome, but it was actually pretty heavy. So it didn't get pushed around. Most of your gas motorhomes will get pushed around a little bit, but if you get a heavier weight Newmar or maybe a Tiffin or something like that, you just have to check the weight on them. They won't get pushed around a bit, and your diesel ones for the most part won't get pushed around too bad. But there's pros and cons. And the gas station thing, I was coming into the gas station. We were in Chattanooga. And if you've ever been in or around Chattanooga, there's just not a lot of big truck stops. I don't know if there's any. I mean, it's hardly any the way we're going to stop. And we were about to have to go up the mountain. So we had to get fuel before we went up it. So I had to whip into a gas station that was small and not comfortable for me, but they did have diesel. So I whipped it in and turned wide, which wasn't a problem. But then I had to change direction on the second turn. It's just, when it's 43 feet, it's so wide. It takes so long to follow you. And I thought I'd turn wide enough on that second one. And I was watching the tail whip. I know I'm explaining a lot at once, but when you've got a 43-foot fifth wheel, you've also got behind the rear axle, you've got the tail of it, which can cause tail whip. So when you turn, the tail of it can swing into the other lane or can swing into a pump or a wall or whatever. And so as we went around, the second axle caught a concrete barrier they put there for people like me around the gas pumps, and it actually knocked our axle out of alignment and then messed up the siding on it and stuff. And it was like $7,000 for like a tiny second of me not watching that turn.
Well, it was like a last second decision to pull in and get gas. I think was, when we were in something bigger, we had to have every single stop planned out. It was like we had to know where we were getting gas, where we were pulling in, because we had to make sure it was something we can get in and out of. And it's not been as stressful with the Airstream. I'll even be like, hey, Chick-fil-A, can we go? And Nathan feels way more comfortable being like, sure, Target. But so I like that he's more comfortable. And so that's been good for me, because if he's comfortable, then I'm more comfortable. And that's been good for us.
I think the motorhome, the Airstream's been the easiest, which is 30 feet, and then the 40-foot motorhome, and then the 43-foot fifth wheel, because it just had such a long tail on it. And then the motorhome, when you're driving, you're right up on the hood. There is no hood, really. You're right up on the front, and it makes it easier. Once you make that turn, it's easier. It doesn't seem like you have to swing quite as wide, depending on what motorhome. And then your vehicle that's behind you being towed just kind of follows you along. It's not difficult at all with that.
It's just preference and what you're comfortable with, though. But that's what we were comfortable with.
But yeah, that was hard for me. Like that tiny little lapse in judgment with that fifth wheel cost us $7,000. And I was only going, how fast were we going? Like maybe 5 miles an hour, 7. We were in the gas station parking lot, so not going fast at all. And it's still, because these things are fragile. They just are. Tiffany says she's getting 34 feet, so that's I guess a 34-foot Airstream. Is that what you were looking at, Tiffany? I know you're looking at Airstreams. Okay, so yeah.
Is that a triple axle?
Usually, yeah. Okay. They made the 33 just came out, and it's 2 axles, but the 34's got 3 axles on it. So yeah, And those are nice. They got some room on them. One thing you might, on the 3 axles, I'd heard this. I don't have any personal experience with this, but I know you got some toy haulers with 3 axles too. I've heard it's tough, and it may not be that bad at all. I'm not going to scare you, Tiffany. Just ask somebody, or if you can test drive it or test pull it or whatever. But when you're backing it in with 3 axles, I've heard it's a little harder to cut it, I guess, to back it in. Say you're backing into a side to make that cut. That's not to say you can't, because people do stuff with 3 axles all the time. But when you got 3 axles instead of 2, it's a little bit more... It's one
rigid,
more
I guess.
It's a little more rigid, I guess, as far as like backing it into a side or something like that. That's not a deal breaker. I'm not trying to scare you with that or anything. That's probably just you got to get used to it as you back it in, kind of thing. Let's see. Lisa said, we've done 2 trial runs in the RV so far. I'm a worrier, so it makes me feel unsettled. I'm wondering, how far in advance do you make reservations for a campground? I'm hoping we can boondock, and I will use the All Stays app to find some places along the way.
We wing it.
we do now.
In the beginning, we did not.
Yes.
But then once we realized, once we were booking every single thing, we had no flexibility. So if say it rained all week, we were there. We didn't get to see anything. Or we met a family that we wanted to spend more time with. Or we ran into some locals that told us some, cool things to check out that we wouldn't get to see. There was no flexibility, because if you change one reservation, then every single reservation is off. So we got a little more comfortable, and that's why downsizing really helped us too, because we had more flexibility. If you're somebody that likes to have every single thing booked, which is really nice, if you want very specific campgrounds and you know where you want to be, and because we're not guaranteed we're going to get in the campgrounds we want to, but we have that flexibility now where we're smaller and we can, and we enjoy the flexibility of being able to move our reservations around more than getting into specific parks is kind of what we decided.
Yeah, as you get smaller, you can wing it a little bit more. As you get bigger, there's fewer and fewer sites, and so you may have to book more things in advance. And some of the tactics we've seen on booking things, we've seen all across the board. Starting off, we had like a month, 2 months booked out. Like, I'm kidding, like from this day we're going to here, this day we're going here. And it was just a big mess. And then we kind of gravitated from that to just booking stuff every once in a while. And then, let's see, Mark said that they reserve the day before. And so we've seen people that do what Mark's talking about. They just book the day before just to make sure they've got something. So that might help you in the beginning. Some nights, if we didn't have something booked the night before, I was kind of restless sleeping. I was like, where are we going to stay tomorrow night? I mean, especially if you've got like a 43-foot fifth wheel or a 40-foot motorhome, you're like, I don't know if we're, now with the Airstream, we're way more comfortable. But yeah, so I mean, even booking just a day in advance, you could do that. You already know you're ready to go. I've seen one tactic people use, a lot of your state parks, national parks, and different places. When you book, or when you're looking at booking, you can find out what the cancellation policy is, and sometimes you can get like a full refund if you cancel within, or it's such a small cancellation penalty, it's not even a big deal. But if you just as long as you cancel a week, 2 weeks in advance. So some people book these national parks or state parks or high traffic areas 6 months, 12 months out, and then if they end up not using them, they cancel them and they pay the small fee, or maybe sometimes no fee, or a lot of times if you move a reservation, they won't charge you. And so they just and I'm just telling you guys this trick, but let's say there's a national park you want to go to that fills up really fast, but you want the reservations. It makes you feel better to have the reservations and have that set. Book it for the max amount of time you can book it. Let's say it can only be booked for 14 days at a time. You would never stay that long, say you wouldn't, but just book it 14 days. And then as it gets closer, as you figure out what days you actually want, you can work the cancellation system a little bit, and you can cancel. Let's say you only want 5 nights. Pick the 5 nights you want. Cancel everything else, and a lot of times there'll be no fee, because it's considered moving it around. Yeah. It's not considered a cancellation. You've only canceled certain days, and you still kept your reservation.
So it's almost like you're giving yourself, you
got a 2-week window. Of flexibility.
Yeah, a cushion.
Instead of if you booked the exact 5 nights you wanted, you'd have zero flexibility, because it'd be full, and you can't move anything around unless somebody cancels. So we know people that do that. We're so sporadic, we can't even book the 2 weeks, but that's a tactic. If you don't move as often as us, I mean, that's the thing too. If you're going to stay somewhere 2 weeks, a month at a time, it may pay to go ahead and just book some stuff in advance. And then if you leave early, as long as you give them a week or so heads up, they may not even charge you. And so, yeah, the smaller the RV you have and the longer you stay, the less stressful that stuff gets. But if you're moving every 3 days and you've got a really large rig, that's like the other side of the equation. I think it would get stressful with it. But the good news is we've always had a place to stay. We've never.
And we're last
and you may
minute.
have to drive a little bit far, yeah. And you may have to drive out. Like we couldn't find anywhere in Denver. We had to leave Denver. There's times we have to leave cities and drive maybe an hour out of the way that we didn't think we'd have to.
You'll find something somewhere.
There's somewhere.
It just
yeah.
might not be like he's saying. We probably would have spent more time in an area, but we couldn't find anything, and we just had to be okay with that and kind of move on. So.
And I think part of that, I think learning I don't know how many times I say I think, but learning boondocking can be stressful at the beginning, but I think it is really good to at least be comfortable with staying in like a Walmart parking lot or something like that, because it can alleviate a lot of this stress. Because you're like, there's times where like we have no clue where we're going, but we know absolute worst case, we'll just pull into a Walmart late, stay the night, and figure out what we're going to do the next day. That's happened too. So I think that's something good to get used to.
Because usually it's during the weekends that we run into the issue. During the week, we really haven't had much of a issue, but it's when we get stuck without something on the weekend. Holidays and weekends. Terrible. But like he said, we're like, okay, well, we'll do a couple Walmarts on the weekend, and then during the week something will open up, and that's been fine for us too.
You ever gotten a Walmart note asking you to leave? We haven't.
Now we're going to. Knock on wood.
We check the Allstays app, and that gives you. They have a okay to park, not okay to park, and they have notes. I read the notes too. And sometimes I read the notes, and even though it says it's asked to park, it's okay. You'll read that people get mixed things happen. It's really weird with the Walmarts. Like,
and there's signs saying no overnight parking.
But they'll let you park there. Like
Nathan loves pulling right up next to the signs. I don't know why he likes parking next to the sign. I'm like, can we just not park next to the sign?
It doesn't matter though.
I know, but it's like
it just makes her feel better.
It does make me feel better. But he's like, I read, it's okay. Or you can ask them too.
Yeah, we've asked.
We'll call ahead sometimes and say, hey, can we, stay? And we've never had an issue. It's a lot of times just city ordinances stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of it's not even the Walmart's deal. It's the city deal. But yeah, I think getting comfortable with parking in a Walmart or Cracker Barrel or Cabela's is a really good one too.
It was quiet. It was much more quiet. So Walmart has a lot of in and out traffic.
If you have the option between a Cabela's and a Walmart, I would take the Cabela's as well, unless you need something at Walmart, from what we've experienced. Carl says you can book 3 days at a campground and monitor a first come first serve area and grab the site you like for the rest of your stay. Yeah, so you can move sites as well, not just move your dates, but you can move around your site a lot of places too. Let's see. Tiffany says, I'm scared of there being naive about the way of life being possible for us. We're just falling in love with the romance of it all. I'm trying to be realistic about the challenges we face. I think that's smart, yeah. I think it's...
you don't know until you try it,
Yeah, but it's tough because you don't want to go all in and try it, and then, like we're talking about, a lot of the risk you've got of, well, goodness, what about my job? What about my house?
That's true. But if you have calculated risk... And kind of like we did, we just thought, was this something we would regret if we didn't try it? And the answer was yes. We thought, if we didn't like it, we could go back and we would figure something else out. And I think it's worth it if you've got a way to do it.
I want to do more videos about how to try it out kind of stuff, because it's tricky to try out this lifestyle. Some of the tactics you can use, there's Airbnbs where you can actually reserve RVs. So you can at least get a feel for, you could go reserve an RV for a week at a location and decide whether you're going to go crazy or not. I mean, a week isn't the same as living in one, but that's better than just like walking around and touring RVs.
Well, there's the rental companies too.
Yeah, and you can rent RVs and drive the Class Cs around. What I've seen, I need to check the process. That's what I want to do, is sort of check these things. But I think renting the Class Cs actually going to be more money than just renting a stationary RV. Like we've seen buses and stuff people have fixed up that you can just stay in the bus for a while as an Airbnb. So I think if there's an Airbnb in the area and you're not you just want to get a feel for an RV, I think that's a good option. And you can rent an RV too. But it's neither of those is insanely cheap's the problem though. Mark says that sometimes there's RVs on site you can rent for a few nights. And that would give you a feel for how things work, and like you may get in the shower and say, oh my goodness, why is the hot water gone after 5 minutes? So I mean, it depends on the size of the water heater and the weather and things like that too. So there's just all those things. Like, the more you can get your feet wet. And I think if you could find, like, if I was really trying to do it cheap, I think if you could find just a really tiny travel trailer, let's say you got like an SUV or something that can tow 5,000 pounds, like a pop-up or a small travel trailer. We ended up getting a 28-foot travel trailer that we towed with because we had something that could tow that. But just find something as cheap and used as you can, because if you're going to spend $2 to $4 grand rent one of these Class C's for a couple of weeks, you could buy an RV for $2 to $4 grand and just have it, use it on the summers, use it on the weekends, get a feel for the RVing experience. And you may say, you know what, this just isn't. I don't like the feel of campgrounds. I don't like messing with the RV. I think we were where you at, Tiffany, is how we got to where we are. She says, I think it's just the fear of failure, but the regret we'll feel if we don't do this will be even worse. And that's what we said to ourselves is, if we don't give us a shot, will we regret it? And we felt like we would.
That's why we didn't film in the beginning, Tiffany, because we're kind of like you're saying, we didn't know. We're like, what if this isn't for us? And, here we are. We've put our life out there and we've went all in, and it's like we'd have to shut down the channel in 2 months and be like, we didn't like it.
We call the channel 6 months in an RV. So
I think everybody has those fears.
And Mark's mentioned there's one of those places in Oregon. Melissa said there's one in Asheville. Yes, the footage on our first 6 months would have been great. We regret that we did not. So hey, maybe film. But it's like you said with the stress level. Like, our stress level was already, like, our normal stress level's here. Our stress level was here because everything was new to us and stuff was breaking down. So that brought up to here, and we're like, hey, well, let's film this stuff too and act like we're So we just filming it on top of what we're doing.
What not to do. Hey, we still say we're the what not to do channel.
See, Miriam says, my sister and I plan to hit the road in 2 years. Most likely we'll be driving a pickup pulling a fifth wheel. Even though I drove semi-trucks for a short time 10 years ago, I fear parking, pulling, hooking, unhooking, maneuvering the whole thing, and I'm terrified of snakes. We've had snakes in here, I think, at least 3 times. Snakes and driving seem to be a pretty common theme with...
Hey, I agree.
We haven't... not that we've never heard of a snake getting into an RV, but snakes can get into houses too. I don't know that, like, the wildlife getting in our RV has been an issue. I think it's like when we're on hikes, but it's expected. You're like walking around in their turf.
Now we're gonna get a snake in our RV because you said.
Where's that?
I mean, I didn't like the mouse in the
but
RV.
you can get a mouse in.
But if there's a snake in there, we're gonna have to move.
Well, the good thing is you probably won't have both. So.
It would get rid of the mice.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
very true.
So.
I took Hensley to Petco today, and they were taking snakes out with their hands and putting them in the tanks. And I told that girl, there was a girl doing it just as calm as could be. I was like, I could never do your job.
She wants to go down. Oh. We'll grab Hensley wants to come down here. We'll get her in just a second.
She might not have pants on.
Just hold her. Keep it the right level. Should be alright.
I think I forgot.
Yeah, Miriam, with the driving, again, it's just some practice. I think that's a good thing too. If you got like a small travel trailer or something, you could at least practice backing it up and some stuff too. It's the same. You just may have to cut it a little bit earlier with something longer. It was definitely harder to back up that 43-foot fifth wheel compared to like the 31-foot Airstream.
But with experience, though, I mean, that's a great start. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a lot of us don't even have that. So.
And making round circle back to Mark at the beginning. I mean, wait the whole time.
He's been tamed. Rachel's kept him.
He said tamed. Small spaces and height.
My sister stayed with us, and she's 6'3" in the Airstream, and she actually left thinking about buying an RV to live in when she graduates. So. And
that was Mackenzie.
Yeah, Mackenzie. Yeah. So that says something, I think, that she saw the lifestyle and all that it could offer and thought it was a great option, and didn't let the height wasn't as big of an issue as she thought. And we have friends, the Sears, he's 6'7", mm-hmm. and they live in a Class A.
They got a motorhome, and it's got a higher ceiling for a motorhome.
They looked for one specifically that had a higher ceiling, and I
get it,
agree.
Mark. Yeah. No, I think you're going to feel, if you're tall, I'm sure you're already watching your head everywhere you're going. And we knock our head on stuff in the Airstream, and we're not super tall people, but
my brother's 6'7". He came over to the Airstream. His head was like hitting the air conditioner.
Yeah, I think you get much over 6 feet. I mean, not that you could do an Airstream, but definitely over 6'5". Apparently, you're gonna start running into stuff.
Mackenzie did hit her head and elbows quite a bit.
Yeah.
I could not leave the cabinet in the Airstream up. She was always like hitting her head, and I hit my elbows all the time. Nathan says I'm like,
it's like a Tasmanian devil,
flailing in there or something. So he never hits his elbows, but I'm all the time hitting my elbows in a small space. But
so yeah, I think it's legitimate fear, and that's just, and I know it's what you're doing a lot, Mark. It's just you get into these RVs and walk around, get a feel, and maybe try to get into one a little bit longer term somehow by renting or Airbnb or whatever you got to do. But
you get used to a space. I really think you do.
I don't think it's as bad. And we haven't talked to many people that said it felt small, but then once I got into it for a week or two, it started feeling smaller and I had to get out. Yeah. I don't think it's way more common the other way. They say it felt small. I was a little worried about it, but then I got used to it. It was okay. I think we hear way more of that.
Yeah.
Not to say it's always going to be the case. Don't come hate us if we're wrong, but.
And there are lots of options for taller people out there. You don't have to have like a shorter ceiling Airstream.
You can get 9-foot ceiling if you want to.
Yeah.
Fifth wheel.
You could, for sure.
The whole thing's, even the over cab part, 7 feet. I mean, you're 6'6". Get a fifth. I mean, it's no problem.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good space. But you're back to some of the towing fears. But you can get a short, tall fifth wheel.
Yeah.
Well, anybody got any more random questions? We can round up our pantless toddler.
I'll see.
Yep, that's why there's no one perfect RV for everyone. That's why you don't see all Class A's, all fifth wheels, all travel trailers, because you got different heights and different people and different towing experiences. Like what vehicle you've got, like as far as like a truck or a van that you're going to tow with, might factor into what RV you get too. If you've already got a dually, I mean, you could sell the dually and go get a Class A, but it might make more sense, just to tow something with that and go with it. Hey, girl.
Hey.
You want to say hey? All right, that's
here,
as high as you.
Here.
Mark said, yeah, still like the van. We haven't had
Do you like the van? You like the van?
Yeah.
Yeah. You do like the van.
Yeah, curious because of the Airstream height. The van's been good. I think it does what it's supposed to do. It tows great, handles great. Just got to watch the heat, which we didn't encounter any issues with the heat last route. But Hensley, I thought you wanted down here.
Jeez.
I guess that was it. I've gone through. Those are the questions. Some great stuff we got. That was all Patreon. All that you guys sent me, I just went through. Anybody got any other questions, fears? We're a little nervous about next year. It's going to be different for us. We usually don't have a lot of traveling wise. This is different for us. We don't have a lot of dates where we have to be certain places. The only time we had the balloon fiesta.
Yeah.
Really, like in 2.5 years, like the only date we've had just about is the balloon fiesta. But next year we've got
we had things like my brother got married and stuff like that.
I guess so. I guess that's true. But as far as like we're gonna be here at this time to do this, we got 5 places probably we have to be or something. So it's gonna be probably a little more stressful to have to get from point A to point B. And if you break down, that adds on to that and all that.
So we're thinking Quartzsite first.
Quartzsite, January, pretty much.
And then we've got the RV Entrepreneur Summit, the end of February in Texas. That's in Fredericksburg. And then probably we're filming for the RV Nomad movie probably sometime in May in Silverton, Colorado.
Yeah, so we'll be in Colorado in May, and then October, we got to be back in
They're
Texas
premiering the movie in October back in Texas.
There's a full-time family rally in California in January as well. We don't know if we're going to make it to it or not. Yeah. We're still looking at it. Tiffany mentioned some day in the life stuff with us since we're here for a while. I think we might. I'm looking into we do more of those kind of vlogs or stuff we're fixing up. I need to do a video. I'll do a video for you guys. We've been back over a week, so we've already put in a different floor in the Airstream. So
I'm nervous about what you guys are gonna think.
San Diego. Oh my goodness, Melissa. And you're looking to travel away from there? I love. I don't know if I travel away from. I've heard anyways. I haven't been to San Diego, but weather-wise, that's like supposed to be awesome.
Mm-hmm. We want to make it to the West Coast, and that was our plan for next year, was to do the West Coast. We wanted to do the West Coast and go up into Alaska, but we have so many events.
It's like every month and a half, 2 months, we have to be somewhere in the middle of the nation. So it's like we have to go whoop 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 whoop.
We're already.
Or we just have to let some of it go. So I don't think we're gonna get to the West Coast next year.
We might if we don't do Alaska.
We'll either do we're hoping to do the West Coast or Alaska, one of the two.
Who knows?
But yeah, that's the plan. And I'll try. Tiffany, we'll show some of our everyday stuff maybe.
We're boring.
We're pretty boring. Marissa will have some more jokes ready for you. Some clownfish jokes. So rough.
I'll work on them. I'll keep
104 for 3 days. Wow, it's still that hot there?
Oh
My goodness. Yeah, she'll work on her jokes.
I'll keep my day job.
All right, well, we're going to wrap up. And I guess we'll see you guys next month, I guess. Would I? There you go.
Yeah. See, I'm funny. I just get it out of order.
She'll be stationary for a while, so. All right, thanks, guys. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you guys
See you
for
next
joining
time.
us.